All right, guys, out here on the river today, and being a weekend warrior, it's really hard sometimes to hit the river right. This season, the late coho and early steelhead season has been tough. Every time I get to come out, the river is either low and clear or it's brown. And today we have pretty brown conditions, not completely blown out. It's still running at a good CFS. I think the CFS is about 600 for this little river, which is actually about perfect. The color is just off. It's just pretty dirty. It's actually a little bit dirtier than what my phone is showing. But that doesn't mean, sorry, I know I'm trying to one-hand it, doesn't mean that I'm not going to give it a try and that I'm not going to be able to hook a fish. You just got to run different stuff. So I'm going to give you just a little tip here when you're fishing this dirtier water. So what I like to do, you can look in the water and you can see the rocks down there about maybe a foot deep or so. So when I'm picking out my lure selection, I'm going to go with something usually a little bigger, a little brighter. That's a pink worm on there, just a bright pink plastic worm. And I dip it in the water and look at that worm and see how deep that worm goes before I lose sight of it, right? So I can see that worm down there probably about 2.5 or 3 feet down in the water, which means if a steelhead sees like you or me, then they can see that worm from about 2.5 or 3 feet away, right? So, a steelhead sitting in the water looking, that worm has got to be in his box within, 2.5 or 3 feet. However, steelhead don't see like us, right? They see on a completely different spectrum and they see UV light way better than us. So I also like to up my UV, which you also have to take in consideration with the dirtier water. There's not as much light penetration, which means there is going to be less UV showing up in the water. But anything helps. So if you can get some UV, some of these worms, in the pack, it will say UV, or you can put some UV scent on there. Or even look at, your beads. A lot of beads have a lot of UV in them. So even if you have a little black light, it's cool. Take them, shine them on your lures, see which one really pops. Stick it in the water like I did that worm. See what it looks like in the water. See what is going to be your best option that those fish are going to be able to see from the furthest away. Now, another key is scent. And adding some kind of scent really ups your odds if you can do so. A lot of rivers in Oregon and Washington, you can't fish scent, so you have to make sure that you are following your regulations. But if you can fish scent in these conditions, it's another thing that's going to up your odds. Because steelhead fishing in general, you're just trying to up your chances of getting your lure in front of that fish and getting that fish to react. So by fishing, looking at your worm or looking at your bait in the water and seeing, okay, what's my best option that the fish are going to be able to see in this watercolor, okay? So sight, that's one. Now, okay, what's scent? These fish are going to be able to find stuff with their nose, right? They come all the way up these rivers and spawn based on their nose, according to scientists, right? So scent is a huge thing. So add some scent to it. That's another key factor. Just one more step closer to getting into a fish, right? So all these things you can stack up and add them together to increase your odds of catching a fish. Because fishing is really all about odds, right? Getting your bait in front of a fish, how many casts does that take, all that stuff. So really you want to up your odds the best you can. So that's just a couple tips that I like to do. Make sure your fish can see the bait, make sure they can smell it. Those are key factors to getting bit, especially in the dirtier water. So tight lines, everyone. Hope you guys are having a good season, and hopefully I see you with a fish soon.